Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by asking you a question. How much of your life have you spent chasing people, pleasing others, or waiting for permission to become who you were born to be? The truth is, far too many of us are investing our energy in the wrong places. We waste years entangled in toxic relationships, giving time to people who don't value us, and drowning in distractions that do nothing to move us closer to our destiny. Life is not a rehearsal, it's the main act. Every day you spend outside your purpose is a day you'll never get back. If you do not learn to focus on yourself, you will spend your life building someone else's dream while neglecting your own. How much of your life have you spent chasing people, pleasing others, or waiting for permission to become who you were born to be? That question may feel uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Most of us are guilty of surrendering chunks of our time, energy, and attention to things that do not nourish our growth. We compromise our peace for the sake of fitting in. We trade our focus for fleeting distractions, and we waste years entangled with people who do not see or honor our true value. Life does not pause while we figure things out. The clock does not stop while we delay. Every minute that slips by is permanently erased from your lifespan. It is a sobering reality that life is not a dress rehearsal. This moment right now is the stage, the performance, the real thing. You cannot go back and edit yesterday. You cannot reschedule last year. And if you are not careful, you will spend decades looking back and realizing that most of your energy was poured into things that never truly mattered. When you think about how precious time is, it changes the way you look at your decisions. Time is not simply hours on a clock. It is the very measure of your existence. What you give your time to is what you give your life to. The scary part is that many of us don't notice how much of it we are losing because distractions come disguised as harmless entertainment, temporary connections, or even opportunities that seem appealing but lead nowhere. This is why so many people are exhausted but not productive, busy but not fulfilled, surrounded by people yet deeply empty. They have been robbed by what looks harmless, but in reality is stealing their destiny. The tragedy is that wasted time often feels like comfort. It feels safe to scroll endlessly, safe to stay connected to people who don't challenge us, safe to remain in the same routine, even though it leads nowhere. But what feels safe is often the very trap that keeps you from evolving. The more you surrender to meaningless activities and manipulative environments, the more you train yourself to accept mediocrity as your norm. And before you know it, years slip through your fingers like sand, and you look back wondering where it all went. Focusing on yourself is not selfish, it is survival. It is strategy. It is stewardship. You cannot rise to the level of your potential if you are constantly scattering your attention across things that do not serve you. The problem is not that you lack talent or that opportunities are not available, but that your time has been fractured, stolen, or wasted on pursuits that never deserved it in the first place. Every person was born with a gift, an assignment, a calling that demands focus. But if your focus is constantly hijacked by distractions, you will never have the strength or clarity to pursue it. Consider the kind of energy it takes to chase people who do not want you, to convince others of your worth, to argue in circles with people who have no interest in growth. Think of the countless hours spent checking if you measure up to someone else's standard, or the endless emotional energy wasted on those who give nothing in return. All of that is time you could have spent building, learning, healing, or transforming. The tragedy is not that life is short, but that people waste so much of it. Life may be brief, but it is long enough if you stop wasting it on things that drain instead of multiply. The truth is, many people are addicted to approval. They crave to be validated by others, and in that craving, they hand over their time like currency to be spent by someone else. Approval is a manipulative force because it convinces you to delay your own dreams for the comfort of others. It persuades you to lower your standards, to silence your voice, to become a version of yourself that pleases everyone else but leaves you unfulfilled. And while you are busy performing for applause, your true calling is left waiting in silence. This is why focus is so critical. Focus is not about shutting out the world in bitterness. but about guarding your energy with wisdom. It is about saying yes to what matters and no to what distracts. It is about realizing that you cannot be everywhere, please everyone, or chase every shiny thing that appears in front of you. You must decide who you are, what you value, and where you are going. And then you must fiercely protect your time so that your actions match your vision. When you finally decide to focus on yourself, you begin to notice how much of your life has been wasted. You see the hours lost in gossip, the days lost in fear, the years lost in meaningless relationships. And while that realization can sting, it is also liberating because it awakens you to the urgency of today. You cannot rewrite the past, but you can reclaim your future. You can redeem the time by making different choices now. You can rise above manipulation, cut off distractions, and refuse to waste another moment. Because the greatest tragedy in life is not death. It is living without ever becoming who you were born to be. One of the most subtle but destructive forces you will ever encounter is distraction. It rarely shows up in obvious ways. Instead, it creeps in quietly, disguised as something harmless, enjoyable, or even necessary. You think you are just passing time. You think you are just being social. You think you are just relaxing for a moment. But hours and days vanish while your purpose remains untouched. Distraction is like a thief that never announces itself. It simply waits until you are unguarded, then it slowly drains your focus, your passion, and your time. That is why it can be called a manipulative hookup. It lures you into believing you are engaged in something valuable when in truth you are being empty. It is not always the loud, obvious mistakes that ruin lives. More often it is the subtle misplacements of attention, the small compromises repeated daily, the little diversions that pull you slightly off course until, over years, you find yourself far from the destination you once dreamed of. People lose years not because they intentionally set out to waste them, but because they became entangled in patterns that seemed harmless at first. These patterns may be unhealthy relationships, environments where growth is stifled, or habits that consume without producing. Each one chips away at your potential while convincing you that everything is fine. There are relationships where you give your energy, your heart, and your time, but all you receive in return is emptiness. You become caught in cycles where someone manipulates your loyalty, drawing from you whenever they're in need, but never standing with you in your moments of struggle. These connections are dangerous because they feel like companionship, but function like chains. They keep you busy but not productive, connected but not fulfilled, surrounded yet lonely. You may not realize it immediately, but your focus is being stolen, and with it, your chance to fully develop yourself. The same can be said for environments that appear exciting but are, in reality, distractions. You can be in a workplace, a community, or even a group of friends where activity is constant, but progress is absent. You attend the meetings, you engage in the conversations, you invest your time, but when you step back and measure what has changed in your life, you realize you are in the same place you were years ago. That is the trap of manipulative distractions. They provide motion without direction, noise without clarity, activity without growth. What makes distraction particularly dangerous is how it manipulates the mind into believing it is necessary. Social media convinces you that endless scrolling is staying informed. Empty conversations convince you that you are being social. Toxic relationships convince you that you are being loyal. But at the end of it all, your energy is drained, your mind is scattered, and your purpose is postponed. That is how manipulation works. It uses your own needs and desires against you, offering temporary satisfaction while robbing you of lasting fulfillment. The cost of distraction is not only time, but also identity. The more you allow yourself to be pulled in different directions, the more you lose sight of who you truly are and what you were meant to do. You begin to measure your worth by the opinions of others, by the trends of the moment, or by the approval of people who do not even care about your destiny. In this way, distraction manipulates you into living someone else's story instead of writing your own. You spend your life reacting instead of creating, surviving instead of thriving, This is why it is not enough to simply recognize distraction. You must treat it as an enemy. If you tolerate it, it will control you. If you excuse it, it will consume you. If you do not resist it, it will rewrite your life. You cannot afford to casually manage something that is actively trying to steal your future. Every time you surrender to it, you delay the unfolding of your purpose. Every time you allow it, you trade eternal significance for temporary pleasure. That is why distraction must be identified, confronted, and eliminated with urgency. The truth is, not everyone and not everything deserves your attention. You cannot keep saying yes to every demand, every invitation, every expectation, and still expect to build a meaningful life. The manipulative hookup of distraction thrives on your inability to say no. It thrives on your fear of missing out, your need for approval, your desire to be liked. But when you finally recognize that your time is sacred, that your focus is priceless, you begin to see clearly how much of your life has been entangled in things that never deserved you. And once you see it, you can no longer remain the same. You must either continue in deception or choose to break free and guard your focus like the treasure it is. Time is not something you own. It is something you are constantly spending, whether you realize it or not. The moment you wake up, you begin paying out the currency of your life. Every decision you make, every conversation you engage in, every activity you choose is a transaction where your time is exchanged for something else. The sobering truth is that once it is gone, there are no refunds, no returns, no opportunities to buy it back. That is why understanding the value of time is the foundation of wisdom. A person who wastes money can always earn more, but a person who wastes time, spending the only currency that cannot be replenished. When you finally grasp this, you begin to guard your hours with the same seriousness you would guard your most precious treasure. Think about how carefully people guard their material possessions. They install locks on their doors, cameras in their homes, passwords on their devices, and insurance policies on their property. Yet the same people who will fight to protect their possessions will casually hand over hours of their life to distractions and meaningless engagements without hesitation. The irony is that possessions can be replaced, but time cannot. The car you lose can be bought again, the house can be rebuilt, the job can be regained, but the years you wasted cannot be recovered. Time is not just a measure of life, it is life itself. When you waste time, you are not just wasting hours, you are wasting fragments of your existence. The manipulation of wasted time often comes in subtle disguises. You do not always recognize it because it rarely feels urgent. Scrolling through feeds, binge-watching shows, entertaining endless gossip, or holding on to conversations that add no value may feel harmless, but over weeks and months, they accumulate into years of lost opportunity. What is even more dangerous is that the brain is deceived into thinking you are occupied, that you are doing something, when in reality you are standing still. You have been tricked into confusing activity with progress. The truth is that being busy does not mean being productive, and filling your schedule does not mean fulfilling your purpose. Guarding your time means learning to say no with courage and conviction. Many people waste years of their lives because they lack the strength to decline what does not align with their values. They attend events they do not enjoy, engage in commitments they do not believe in, and maintain relationships that no longer serve them. All because they are afraid of disappointing others. But every yes you give to something unworthy of your time is a no you give to your own growth, your own dreams, and your own peace of mind. Until you learn to value yourself enough to protect your time, you will always find it slipping away into the hands of people and situations that do not deserve it. You must also realize that wasted time has a compounding effect. One day of delay may feel insignificant, but when repeated, it becomes a habit that defines your life. People do not suddenly wake up after 20 years wondering where their life went. They drifted into that realization one small compromise at a time. Every wasted morning, every meaningless conversation, every hour surrendered to distractions was a brick in the wall that now stands between them and their purpose. This is why urgency is so important. You cannot afford to treat time casually because it is slipping through your hands whether you honor it or not. The tragedy of wasted time is not only in what you lose, but in what the world loses. Every person carries gifts, ideas, and solutions that someone else needs. When you waste your time, you are not only delaying your own fulfillment, you are also withholding what others could have benefited from. A book remains unwritten, a business remains unbuilt, a dream remains unrealized, all because time was squandered on pursuits that brought no fruit. This is why wasting time is more dangerous than we realize. It has consequences far beyond our own lives. To truly respect time, you must begin to treat each hour as an opportunity for growth and alignment with your purpose. This does not mean you cannot rest or enjoy leisure, but even rest must be intentional and restorative rather than empty. The key is awareness, knowing where your hours are going, and ensuring they are aligned with who you want to become. Every great accomplishment is simply the accumulation of wisely invested hours. Likewise, every wasted life is the accumulation of hours thrown away without thought. When you begin to see time as the measure of your destiny, you stop tolerating people who drain you, you stop indulging in habits that weaken you, and you stop placing your future on hold. You realize that each day is a gift placed in your hands, and how you spend it determines the quality of your life. The power to build, to heal, to create, to transform, it all begins with the choices you make about your time. If you treat it casually, you will live casually. If you treat it with reverence, you will live with purpose. Time is the currency that reveals what you truly value. Look at where you invest it, and you will see what matters most to you. If you claim to value growth, but spend your hours in distraction, your actions betray your words. If you say you value relationships, but spend no meaningful time nurturing them, your priorities are exposed. Time never lies. It always reveals what you love, what you honor, and what you believe in. That is why the wisest thing you can do is to handle it with precision, because how you spend it today will determine the story you tell tomorrow. When people hear the phrase, focus on yourself, they often misunderstand it as selfishness, as though choosing to prioritize your growth and well-being is an act of neglecting others. In truth, the opposite is the case. Focusing on yourself is not about abandoning your responsibilities or disregarding relationships. It is about equipping yourself to show up fully in every area of life. You cannot pour into others if your own cup is empty. You cannot lead effectively if you are constantly distracted. You cannot nurture relationships if you are drained, broken, and scattered. True focus on yourself is a form of stewardship. It is the deliberate act of managing your own energy, emotions, and direction so that you can maximize your potential and live a life of impact. When you turn your attention inward, you begin to see the areas of your life that require strengthening. Growth does not happen accidentally, it requires intention. Just as a garden left unattended will be overrun with weeds, so too will your life if you fail to focus on cultivating it. Discipline, character, skills, health, and wisdom must all be developed deliberately. But none of these can grow if your focus is constantly pulled outward toward distractions or consumed by the approval of others. Self-focus allows you to slow down, evaluate where you are, and create a path toward where you want to be. It gives you the space to ask critical questions. What am I neglecting? What needs improvement? Where am I giving too much? Where am I giving too little? Without such reflection, you risk drifting aimlessly, spending your life reacting instead of directing. There is also a deep connection between focus and clarity. Many people live in constant confusion, unsure of their purpose, unsettled in their identity, and insecure in their value. This confusion does not come from a lack of ability, but from a lack of focus. They are pulled in too many directions, listening to too many voices, comparing themselves to too many people. The noise of the world drowns out the quiet truth within. Focusing on yourself allows you to clear away that noise, to reconnect with your inner voice, and to rediscover the vision you were created to pursue. It is in stillness and reflection that clarity is born, and clarity is the foundation of transformation. Another important dimension of focusing on yourself is healing. Many people carry wounds from past experiences. Betrayal, rejection, failure, or disappointment that shape the way they live today. Instead of addressing those wounds, they bury themselves in distractions or pour themselves into others, hoping to find escape. But the truth is that unhealed pain will always resurface. If you do not deal with it, it will deal with you. Focusing on yourself creates the space to confront these wounds, to seek growth, to forgive where necessary, and to release what no longer serves you. Healing requires focus, and without it, you will continue to repeat cycles that keep you stuck. Discipline is also inseparable from focus. You cannot expect growth if you live without structure. Focusing on yourself means setting standards for how you live, deciding what you will tolerate and what you will not, and holding yourself accountable. It is easy to drift when there is no plan. But when you focus, you begin to establish routines and boundaries that keep you aligned with your purpose. You wake with intention. You direct your energy toward tasks that build rather than break you. You say no more often, not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Discipline is not restriction, it is freedom, because it frees you from the chaos of living without direction. The beauty of focusing on yourself is that it multiplies outward. When you are whole, strong, and aligned, you become a source of strength for others. Your clarity brings guidance, your peace brings stability, your discipline brings inspiration. People are not helped by your exhaustion or by your distraction, they are helped by your fullness. That is why focusing on yourself is not self, it is a service. You cannot be the best partner, parent, leader, or friend if you are constantly empty. But when you pour into yourself, you are able to pour out of overflow rather than depletion. The world is filled with noise, with endless demands and countless opinions about who you should be and how you should live. If you do not learn to focus on yourself, you will live as a shadow of yourself, molded by other people's expectations rather than your own convictions. But when you choose to redirect your attention inward, you begin to shape your life deliberately. You discover your values, strengthen your gifts, heal your wounds, and build your discipline. And in doing so, you not only rise into your potential, you also position yourself to impact the world around you with authenticity and power. There comes a point in life when you must confront the painful truth that not everyone around you is truly for you. Some people are not partners in your journey. They are obstacles cleverly disguised as companions. They may occupy your time, demand your energy, and pull on your emotions, but they do not contribute to your growth or your purpose. These are the individuals who appear when it benefits them, who take from you without hesitation, and who vanish when it is your turn to need support. They are not builders, they are consumers. They are not encouragers, they are detractors. When you waste your time on such people, you are essentially giving your most valuable resource, your life, to those who will never invest it back into you. The danger of the wrong people lies in their subtlety. At first, you may not recognize them as a drain on your life. They may come with charm, with promises, with companionship that feels warm in the beginning. But over time, their true nature is revealed. You begin to notice that after spending time with them, you feel drained instead of energized, heavy instead of light, doubtful instead of confident. That is the fruit of their presence, and it tells you more than their words ever could. Words can deceive, but energy never lies. If every interaction leaves you depleted, then you must understand that you are wasting time in soil that cannot produce fruit. The most tragic mistake many people make is attempting to convince the wrong people to see their value. They spend years trying to prove themselves to individuals who have already made up their minds not to appreciate them. They argue, they beg, they compromise, they lower their standards, all in the hope of finally being recognized. But here is the truth: you cannot force someone to acknowledge your worth if they are committed to ignoring it. Recognition is not something you extract from others. It is something the right people will give without being asked. When you waste your energy on convincing, you are stealing that same energy from the work that could have elevated your life. Wrong people also have the ability to distract you from your purpose. They may mock your dreams, minimize your progress, or tempt you into diversions that keep you from focusing on what truly matters. Instead of cheering you on, they question why you are trying. Instead of lifting you higher, they try to anchor you to where they are. Many destinies have been delayed, not because of lack of talent, but because of misplaced relationships. If you allow yourself to stay connected to those who do not align with your vision, you will find yourself shrinking just to remain in their company. And the more you shrink, the further you move from the person you were born to be. Time wasted on the wrong people is not only time lost, it is opportunity lost. While you are caught up in trying to keep people who don't deserve you, you miss the chance to connect with those who do. While you are distracted by voices that devalue you, you fail to hear the ones who would encourage and guide you. Wrong people occupy space that right people cannot enter. If you want to attract meaningful relationships, you must first clear away the counterfeit ones. What makes this process difficult is the fear of being alone. Many endure the wrong people simply because they are afraid of emptiness. They would rather have the illusion of companionship than face solitude. But solitude is not your enemy, it is your classroom. It is in moments of separation that you rediscover yourself, reclaim your confidence, and prepare your spirit to welcome the right people into your life. Holding on to those who drain you will only delay that process. Choosing to walk away, even if it feels lonely, is an act of faith that you are worth more than what you are currently tolerating. The wrong people also reveal something about your boundaries. If you continually attract those who exploit, it may be because you have not yet drawn firm lines around your time and energy. Learning to set boundaries is a form of self-respect. It is declaring to yourself and to others that your life is too valuable to be wasted on relationships that subtract instead of add. Boundaries may cause some people to leave, but let them. Anyone who cannot respect your limits does not deserve your presence. By protecting your time, you create room for people who will honor it. At the heart of this lesson is the recognition that not all company is good company. The people you surround yourself with shape your thinking, influence your habits, and either accelerate or hinder your growth. If you spend your life surrounded by negativity, small-mindedness, and envy, it will be nearly impossible to rise into greatness. But when you invest your time in relationships that challenge you, uplift you, and celebrate you, you position yourself for exponential growth. The key is discernment. Knowing the difference between those who want to see you win and those who want to keep you weak. You must stop wasting time trying to convince the wrong people to stay, to change, or to value you. Your purpose is too great and your time is too short to keep explaining yourself to those who refuse to listen. Let them go and trust that what you lose in numbers, you will gain in authenticity. When you finally release the wrong people, you create the freedom to rise into spaces and relationships that align with who you are meant to be. One of the greatest prisons people live in is the constant pursuit of approval. From childhood, many are conditioned to measure their worth by the reactions of others. A smile, a nod, or applause becomes the validation they crave, and without it, they feel incomplete. Over time, this hunger for approval grows into a dependency, shaping decisions, relationships, and even identity. You begin to live not from conviction, but from expectation. Every action is filtered through the question, will they accept me? That question is a chain around your neck because it keeps you bound to opinions that shift like the wind. As long as you are tethered to the need for approval, you will never experience the freedom to live authentically. The manipulation of approval is powerful because it uses your natural desire for belonging against you. Humans were created to live in community, to be connected, to love and be loved. That desire is not wrong, it is natural. But when belonging becomes dependence, it turns into bondage. You begin to compromise your values, silence your voice, and minimize your gifts just to remain accepted. You start adjusting your personality to fit circles that do not reflect your true essence. The tragedy is that even when you gain acceptance, it does not satisfy. Approval is addictive. The more you receive, the more you crave. It becomes a cycle where you can never rest because you are constantly performing to maintain acceptance. Living for approval also steals time because it diverts your focus from building yourself to proving yourself. Instead of investing hours in personal growth, you spend them rehearsing how to appear acceptable. Instead of working on your goals, you waste energy wondering if others approve of them. Instead of stepping boldly into new opportunities, you hesitate, fearing judgment. And while you hesitate, while you shrink, while you adjust to please others, life moves forward without you. This is how approval manipulates. It convinces you to exchange purpose for performance, destiny for acceptance, and fulfillment for applause. The need for approval does not only affect your actions, it corrodes your identity. You begin to lose sight of who you are because you are constantly reshaping yourself to fit others' molds. You wear masks so often that you forget the feel of your real face. The danger of this is that no one can ever truly know you if you are always hiding behind the version they want to see. You can be surrounded by people, yet feel profoundly lonely because deep down you know they are not relating to your authentic self. They are relating to the image you projected for their approval. That loneliness is devastating because it reminds you that while others may accept the mask, your true self remains unseen. The manipulation of approval also leads to cycles of comparison. When you live for validation, you inevitably begin measuring yourself against others who seem to have more of it. You compare your life, your appearance, your success, and your influence to theirs. Instead of celebrating your uniqueness, you resent it. Instead of embracing your journey, you chase someone else's path. Comparison then breeds insecurity, and insecurity deepens the need for more approval. The cycle continues, and each round costs you more of your time, peace, and confidence. Breaking free from this manipulation requires courage. The courage to disappoint, the courage to stand alone, the courage to be misunderstood. It means realizing that not everyone will celebrate you, and that is perfectly fine. The measure of your worth cannot be determined by applause or silence. Your value is inherent, unchanging, and not up for debate. When you internalize this truth, you begin to walk differently. You stop begging for seats at tables where you were never meant to sit. You stop deluding yourself for the comfort of others. You stop wasting time adjusting your light for people who are blinded by it. Instead, you choose authenticity over acceptance. There is a unique power that comes from living authentically. When you no longer need approval, you begin to create from a place of freedom. Your energy is no longer drained by performance, so it flows naturally into purpose. Your relationships become more meaningful because they are built on truth, not masks. The people who remain in your life are those who embrace you fully, not conditionally. And your time, once wasted on rehearsing, pleasing, and pretending, becomes available for building, learning, and becoming. Approval is a prison with invisible bars. Many stay inside because it feels safe, because it guarantees them the illusion of belonging. But safety is not the same as freedom, and belonging that demands your silence is not true belonging. Real freedom begins when you stop asking for permission to be yourself. It begins when you stop wasting time chasing the shifting standards of others and start living by the standards of your own values and purpose. The manipulative grip of approval is broken not by louder applause, but by the quiet strength of authenticity. When you choose to walk in that strength, you reclaim your time, your voice, and your life. Distraction is one of the most subtle and effective tools that steals time and blinds people from their own growth. It does not always come in the form of obvious chaos or noise. Often, it presents itself as something harmless, even necessary. The endless scrolling on a screen, the constant checking of messages, the hours spent in conversations that add no value. These things may feel small in the moment, but together they consume vast portions of a life. Time is the only resource that cannot be replaced, and yet many waste it freely as though there will always be more. Distraction manipulates you into believing you are busy when in reality you are stagnant. It convinces you that you are engaged when in truth you are drifting away from the very path meant for you. The danger of distraction lies in its ability to disguise itself as productivity. You can spend hours researching, talking or planning, yet accomplish nothing of true significance. You can fill your calendar with tasks and meetings, but if they are not aligned with your purpose, they are distractions dressed as progress. Many confuse activity with achievement, but they are not the same. Activity can keep you moving, but achievement ensures that movement is directed toward destiny. The tragedy is that countless lives are consumed by activity without progress, leaving people exhausted but unfulfilled. Distraction steals not just time, but also clarity, because it clouds your ability to see what truly matters. When you live distracted, your energy is scattered. Instead of being focused on building something meaningful, your attention is pulled in multiple directions, none of which lead to lasting fulfillment. This scattering weakens your potential, much like sunlight dispersed through fog has no power to burn, but when concentrated, it can ignite fire. Your life's energy works the same way. If it is spread thin across meaningless engagements, trivial pursuits, and endless entertainment, it cannot generate transformation. But when it is focused, it can move mountains. Distraction keeps you unfocused because focus is dangerous. It leads to growth, discipline, and breakthroughs. Distraction also appeals to comfort. It gives you an escape from the discomfort of growth. Pursuing purpose requires discipline, sacrifice, and the courage to face challenges, but distraction offers an easy alternative. Instead of working on your dream, you can binge on entertainment. Instead of facing a difficult conversation, you can drown in business. Instead of investing in your personal development, you can lose hours in mindless habits. In the moment, distraction feels safe because it shields you from responsibility. But over time, it becomes a prison that robs you of progress. Comfort is seductive, but it often masks stagnation. Growth requires leaving comfort behind, while distraction convinces you to stay in it a little longer. Another way distraction manipulates is through urgency. Everything feels urgent, but not everything is important. People spend entire days responding to emergencies that were never theirs to carry. They allow other people's demands to dictate their direction. They answer every call, respond to every notification, and attend to every request, leaving no space for their own priorities. The truth is that not every urgent thing is significant, and not every demand deserves your attention. Without discernment, you end up living in reaction to life instead of intentionally building it. Distraction thrives when you lack boundaries, because boundaries are what protect your focus. The cost of distraction is not always immediate. It accumulates slowly, almost invisibly. One missed opportunity here, one wasted day there, one postponed decision later, and soon years are lost. Dreams are left unbuilt, potential is buried, and lives are reduced to routines of survival instead of legacies of impact. Distraction is rarely about what you gain in the moment. It is about what you lose over a lifetime. Every hour spent on what does not matter is an hour stolen from what could have changed your future. The weight of regret is often heavier than the discomfort of discipline, but by the time many realize this, their best years have already slipped away. Breaking free from distraction requires awareness and intentionality. You must recognize what pulls your focus away from your highest priorities and confront it honestly. Often, it is not the big things, but the small habits that quietly steal time. The habit of procrastination, the lure of endless entertainment, the comfort of staying busy without being productive. All these need to be challenged. Focus is not something that appears naturally. It is something cultivated through discipline. You must decide what deserves your energy and fiercely protect it. This might mean saying no more often, limiting access to your attention, and creating spaces where purpose is prioritized above pleasure. There is a deep fulfillment that comes when you reclaim your focus from distraction. Your days feel purposeful, your energy is preserved, and your progress becomes tangible. Instead of being drained by meaningless activity, you are empowered by meaningful action. Distraction will always present itself because the world is full of noise competing for attention. But when you know who you are and where you are going, you can silence the noise and stay aligned with your vision. True freedom is not just the absence of chains, but the mastery of focus. When you learn to direct your time toward what matters most, you stop wasting life and start living it fully. Many people spend their lives trapped in the dangerous cycle of comparison, constantly measuring themselves against the achievements, possessions, or appearances of others. This habit seems harmless at first, just a quick glance at someone else's progress or lifestyle, but it slowly becomes a chain that binds the mind and steals inner peace. Comparison convinces you that your worth is not intrinsic, but dependent on how well you stack up against others. Instead of walking confidently in your own lane, you begin to drift into someone else's path, trying to match steps that were never meant for you. The tragedy is that while you are busy chasing their rhythm, you neglect the unique melody of your own journey. The manipulation of comparison works by blinding you to what you already have. When your eyes are constantly fixed on another's success, you fail to see your own growth. You may have overcome struggles, developed resilience, or achieved milestones that once seemed impossible, yet comparison minimizes them. It whispers that your progress is insignificant because someone else has gone further or faster. This mindset robs you of gratitude, and without gratitude, joy becomes impossible. You live in a constant state of lack, convinced that you are behind, even when you are right on time for your own destiny. Comparison also distorts perspective. What you see in others is rarely the full story. People project the polished highlights of their lives while concealing the struggles, doubts, and failures they endure behind the scenes. Social media intensifies this illusion by offering curated glimpses of success that seem effortless, when in reality they are the product of years of unseen effort. Yet when you compare yourself to those highlights, you set yourself up for disappointment. You are measuring your behind the scenes against someone else's staged performance, and the result is always inadequacy. This distorted lens creates the belief that you are not enough, when in fact you are simply running a different race. The cost of comparison is not only emotional but also practical. It consumes valuable time and energy that could be invested in building your own life. Instead of focusing on your gifts, you waste hours studying how someone else uses theirs. Instead of developing your strengths, you chase after skills that were never aligned with your purpose, simply because you admire them in another. Over time, this distraction delays your progress and keeps you from reaching your full potential. The more you invest in someone else's lane, the less you build in your own. Comparison also fuels insecurity. When you constantly evaluate yourself against others, you inevitably magnify your weaknesses and downplay your strengths. You begin to define your identity by what you lack rather than by what you possess. This insecurity drives many into unhealthy competition, where the goal is no longer growth but superiority. The desire to simply become better is replaced with the obsession to be better than someone else. This shift is toxic because it strips away authenticity. You no longer pursue goals that align with your values. Instead, you chase goals that make you look valuable in the eyes of others. Living under the weight of comparison also breeds resentment. It becomes difficult to celebrate others sincerely when you see their success as a threat to your worth. Instead of being inspired by their achievements, you feel diminished by them. This resentment poisons relationships, leaving you isolated, because genuine connection requires the ability to celebrate others without envy. But when comparison rules your heart, every victory of others feels like your defeat. Over time, this mindset erodes trust, damages friendships, and isolates you in silent bitterness. Breaking free from the trap of comparison requires a shift in perspective. It begins with embracing the truth that life is not a competition but a unique journey. Each person is entrusted with a path tailored to their strengths, challenges, and timing. Just as seeds bloom in different seasons, destinies unfold at different times. The oak tree does not envy the rose, and the rose does not compete with the sunflower. Each grows into its full beauty by staying true to its design. In the same way, you must recognize that your significance is not measured against anyone else's success, but by your faithfulness to your own calling. Freedom from comparison also requires cultivating gratitude. When you intentionally focus on what you have, your strengths, progress, opportunities, and blessings, You begin to see abundance rather than lack. Gratitude anchors you in the present and reminds you that your life holds value apart from external validation. It silences the voice of inadequacy by shifting attention from what is missing to what is already present. Gratitude does not ignore your goals or ambitions, but it ensures that your pursuit of them comes from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. When you release comparison, you reclaim peace. You no longer feel the pressure to outpace others because you understand that your only competition is who you were yesterday. Each day becomes an opportunity to grow, not a race to win. You celebrate others freely because their success does not diminish yours. It simply affirms that progress is possible. And most importantly, you begin to live authentically. Instead of imitating another's life, you embrace your own, flaws and all, and in that authenticity you discover fulfillment. Comparison is a thief that steals joy, delays progress, and poisons relationships. But once you recognize its manipulation, you can break its power. You can choose to fix your eyes on your own path, walk at your own pace, and grow into your own greatness. Life is not about being the best in someone else's story. It is about becoming the fullest version of yourself in your own. Life is not a rehearsal. Every day that passes is a day you will never get back, and every choice you make is a step either toward your destiny or away from it. You have read about focus, about distractions, about the dangers of approval and comparison, and about how easily time can slip through your hands if you are not intentional. All of these lessons point to one truth: your life is your responsibility. No one else can live it for you. No one else can fulfill your purpose, and no one else can carry your vision. You were created with unique gifts, a unique calling, and a specific assignment. Wasting time on what does not serve you is not only a loss for yourself, but also for the world that needs what you carry. Every moment you spend on doubt, fear, distraction, or comparison is a moment stolen from building the future you desire. You must make a decision. Will you continue allowing external voices, empty habits, and temporary pleasures to dictate your life? Or will you take ownership of your time, your focus, and your energy? The power of transformation begins with that decision. You cannot change yesterday, but you can redeem today, and in doing so, shape tomorrow. It is important to understand that transformation does not happen in one giant leap. It is the product of small, consistent choices made daily. Choosing to wake up early to invest in yourself. Choosing to silence distractions so you can focus on your goals. Choosing to believe in your worth even when applause is absent. Choosing to run your own race without measuring it against another's. These choices may feel small, but over time they compound into monumental change. A life of meaning is not built by accident. It is built by intention, discipline, and clarity. Ask yourself, how much longer will you tolerate living below your potential? How much longer will you let distractions control your days? How much longer will you crave approval from those who do not understand your vision? How much longer will you compare your journey to others instead of walking confidently in your own? These are not light questions. They are the very questions that separate the fulfilled from the frustrated, the leaders from the followers, the dreamers from the doers. The answers lie not in tomorrow, not in someday, but in the decisions you make now. Imagine for a moment that you began to truly focus on yourself, your growth, your goals, your healing, your discipline. Imagine if you stopped wasting energy on things that do not add value and redirected that energy into becoming who you were meant to be. How different would your life look a year from now? 5 years from now, how much peace would you carry? How much confidence? How many doors would open that once seemed closed? The life you desire is not out of reach. It is waiting on the version of you who refuses to settle for less. You have to remember that your future is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. Purpose does not fall into your lap. It must be pursued. Fulfillment is not handed to you. It must be created. Greatness is not given. It is developed through persistence, resilience, and an unshakable focus on what matters most. The good news is that everything you need is already within you. The strength, the wisdom, the creativity, the discipline, it is all there, but it must be awakened, nurtured, and directed. That begins the moment you decide to stop wasting time and start investing in yourself. So, I ask you directly, what are you going to do with the time you still have? Will you let it slip away through distractions and approval seeking, or will you seize it and build a life that reflects your true potential? Will you continue watching others live boldly while you remain silent, or will you step into your own power and live authentically? The choice is yours, and the consequences of that choice will echo through your future. This is your moment. Do not wait for the perfect time. It will never come. Do not wait for everyone's approval. It will never be enough. Do not wait until you feel ready. You may never feel it. Start where you are with what you have and build from there. Commit to yourself, honor your time, and guard your focus as though your life depends on it. Because it does. If this message has stirred something inside you, let it not just be words you hear and forget. Let it be a call to action. Take one step today, whether it is writing down your goals, eliminating a distraction, or saying no to what no longer serves you. Small steps taken consistently create unstoppable momentum. Now, I want to hear from you. What is one area of your life where you know you've been wasting time? And what is the first step you're going to take to change it? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your reflections and your commitments. If this message inspired you, remember to like this video, subscribe for more life-changing insights, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Together, let's build a community of people who are done wasting time and are ready to rise into their full potential. Your future self is waiting. Don't keep it waiting any longer.